I'm John Alcoholic.
Hey, John.
I want to thank Tony for asking me to come here to speak this evening. I see a few people I know out there. It's nice to have a few people you know in a group like this. A little closer? Okay. How's this?
That's pretty good.
Okay. My sobriety date is June 16th, 1982. I've been around a little while, and I heard a guy speak with 55 years this weekend, so I don't feel like I got that much time. So what I'll say is, my experience here can be summed up with this. AA allowed me to be the person that I was supposed to be, that God made me to be, before circumstances in life and hardships and alcoholism got in the way and took me down another road. And AA gave me that. And I think it'll give that to anybody who follows this program. So let me tell you a little bit about the way it was. I was born in downtown LA. I was raised on the western edge of downtown LA in a real low-income area. My father drove a taxi cab. My best friend's father was a bartender. Two of my other best friends, their fathers died when they were kids due to alcoholism. My next door neighbor was killed in a barroom fight. That's the kind of place it was. And highly dysfunctional family, very violent. I took two things away from that childhood about the time I was 10. One was being poor sucked, and I was going to have a different life. And the second thing was I was never going to drink. So fast forward to about 16, and I'm running with some rough kids, and I haven't been in school consistently in 5 or 6 years. We got a petty larceny thing going on. We're making some money. And on a New Year's Eve, 1971, the suggestion is made that we get drunk, because that's what adults do on New Year's Eve. And that thought went through my head that I'm never going to drink. And it was peer pressure, wanting to fit in, wanting to be part of. And I thought, I'm going to do this one time, prove myself, then I'm done. A quick tour that night, I attacked a friend, kicked him in the face for no other reason than his face was here and my shoe was here. And it seemed like a good thing to do. Literally, no provocation. Later that night, we tried to steal a car, and a police car drove by, and we all took off. And I should have had red flags and warning lights and sirens going off that, see, you were right. This is what alcohol would do. My thought was, I can't wait to do it again. The consequences didn't matter, because alcohol filled that gap. It filled the void. Every ism that I didn't even know I had was calmed. I felt wonderful. So next 10 years, 5 months, and 15 days, I chased alcohol. I chased that feeling. And I had wreckage and consequences and geographicals across the country and trips to jail. And in the midst of that, I'm trying to do some good in my life, but nothing ever worked out. I managed to find a wife and end up with 2 kids. And in June of '82, I'm in Covina. We just made another trip out here. We're staying in somebody's house. They don't have an extra bedroom, so we're sleeping on the floor. And I come to one morning, and I know I came to, I didn't wake up. And I come to, and I see my 2 little kids playing near my feet. One's a year old, and one's about 2.5. And I'm looking at them, and I've been trying to wrap my head around the idea that it's okay to have the life give them the life that I had as a kid. And I've been doing this for a while because all these yets are just piling up. And I'm trying to look at it like this isn't my fault, it's my father's fault. It's that childhood. And everything will be okay. They don't need any more than what I had, because look at the way I turned out. And that was the bottom. That was the moment of clarity, that incomprehensible demoralization when I said, okay, I'm willing to trade my kids' future so I can drink. And the next week or two is kind of foggy, but I end up in AA on June 16, 1982. And for you new people there, when I identified for the first time, I had this tremendous load come off my back, and I felt so good. And about a minute later, somebody took a 30-day chip. And I said, there's no frickin' way 30 days from now I'm going to be sitting in this room. And that was 15,432 days ago, and I'm still here. So this thing works. So I'm trying to get through 42 years, so I'm going to go fast. So at about 6 months, I'm on this pink cloud. I'm going to meetings, and I'm feeling good, and I'm hearing those things we hear, people doing the same things we did that nobody else was supposed to have ever done, people sharing experiences that I had, and I'm feeling so good that I'm starting to think that maybe this was a mistake. Maybe I don't have a problem. It's been 6 months. I haven't drank. And that pink cloud is an illusion. And just about that time, my wife said, I want to take a trip back east and take the kids and visit my parents. So I immediately went into relapse mode. And my thinking was, I got 2 weeks. I'm going to drink. No one's going to know. I got this whole plan, drink, sober up, drink, sober up. No one in the rooms will know. She's not going to know. My job's not going to know. Keep it to the weekends. Long story short, I didn't do it. And I went to meetings constantly, read the big book, the 12 and 12, as Bill sees it, and I had that moment of confronting that first half of the first step. Okay, the first half of the first step is what keeps you from a drink. I knew I'm powerless over alcohol. If I pick up, I'm going to get the exact same results I got before. There's no doubt that I'm going to drink the same way, because I don't want to drink any other way. And there's no doubt I'm not stopping after 2 weeks. It's going to go right back to where it was. So at about 9 months is when I had that real connection with the first half of the first step. Now, you can get here for any reason. I got here because of my kids, but you have to stay for yourself. And at that moment, I knew that if I didn't want the old life, I had to stay in these rooms and not drink. So I got through that. And the other thing I learned from that was there's no such thing as a slip. We go out in our heads way before we pick up a drink. I planned that for a couple months. Okay, so life is good. I'm feeling a little bit better. On the outside, everything's getting better. I'm showing up for work every day. I can pay my bills. I'm doing okay. But when I did my fourth step with my sponsor the first time, all I could do was make a list of people who had harmed me and how they owed me an amends. I was incapable of seeing my part in things. You know, there's a progression here over time. I'm not drinking, but that's all I got. Okay? But it's enough when you're first here. So at about 2 years, I am absolutely miserable in these rooms. I'm going to work every day. Things are going good at work. I'm doing other things in my life, but I am freaking miserable. And I knew from coming to these rooms that I needed to work those steps again. So all of a sudden, working those steps with a little bit of honesty, that list of people who owed me an amends now became my victims. I was the tormentor. I played a part in everything that went wrong in my life. Did that up through step 9, life got better. And, things continued to get better. And when I was at about 5 years, I got 3 kids now. And we're out of the sleeping on the floor for a long time. We went from an apartment, now we have a house, and we have a better car, a couple cars in the driveway. Life's going good. And I'm getting really busy. And I'm still going to school, and I'm doing other things. And, these meetings are they're a drag on my lifestyle. So I'm going to a meeting every 2 weeks, then every 3 weeks. Then I don't need to hear read it. I've heard this stuff over and over again. Come in a little late. And the prayer thing, come on, hokey. I'm leaving. I got to get out of the parking lot. So what did my head tell me to do? Maybe you could drink again. Maybe you can go out for a few years, and when you come back, it'll be like it was when you first got here. Well, it was pretty damn bad when I first got here. So I went to talk to my sponsor about that, and he set me straight. And he told me a lot of people, 4 or 5 years, when life starts to get good, you drift away. He said I was no longer in AA, I was just around it. And I had complaints about old timers. And he said, go to meetings where you like to go. You don't have to go to a meeting that you don't want to go to. And I took his advice, and the lesson from that is when you're thinking about drinking, now the first time I was lucky. The second time I had enough sense to go talk to somebody. So when you're thinking about drinking or doing some other dumb thing, go talk to your sponsor. If you can't find your sponsor, find someone else. I took his advice, and my life got better again. And when I had about 10 years, I had finished college for the first time. I had a career job. I was going places. Now we own a house, and now we have new cars in the driveway. I got 2 kids in private school. Everything is wonderful. But I got that wife that I picked up during my disease, who, by the way, had her own disease going on. And she wasn't happy. She was still saying, in 1978, you did this. 1981. Okay, so she decided we were through. And all of that I'd built up was gone. And left that marriage and had some really tough years, really rough years. And what I realized was this program was working in that aspect of my life. I came back to these rooms more and more, and these meetings and these steps were carrying me through that. And in the next 8-9 years, I finished college 3 more times, ended up with a master's. I went from being a worker to a supervisor to a manager. I got the office and the company car and the secretary, and I started traveling. And it was all because I looked at the good and the bad, and I was able to accept my life, and I was able to apply the principles outside. There was no thought of a drink. I'm applying the principles in my life, in the other 22 and a half hours a day that I'm out there. So at 18 years, I decided to do a big 10th step. I decided I'm going to look back on these rough years and kind of clean house. And that turned into a massive 4-step because the road gets narrower. And all of a sudden, looking back, I'm finding that, there's things that didn't show up on that second 4-step. And there's things that I'm looking at differently. The road gets narrower. You never stop working these steps. So that was a life-changing event. And I came out of that period in just fantastic shape. And of course, then I meet the right person for me. And she's a normie. But, after a few months, she said, I noticed you don't drink. And I told her about AA. And she asked the perfect question. How do I learn about that? So I gave her a big book. And I guarantee you the doctor's opinion was helpful for her in how to deal with me. And, we got married, wonderful life. I mean, it was what life was supposed to be. I was well enough, accomplished enough, smart enough now because of these rooms to live a really good life. So for like 20 years, we're married, just have the most wonderful life. And I brag about it. I didn't mean to, but I just say, hey, I'm just coasting in this wonderful life. And I sponsored people. I went to meetings, and then I gravitated down because I was spending so much time in meetings and with sponsees that I got a good solid 2 meetings a week, and still a lot of sponsees, but balance. And life was just so damn good. And then last year, she got ill, and early this year, she died. And my whole life is turned upside down. And believe it or not, I can be grateful for things on how that turned out. She didn't suffer. There was no pain. There was how you can take probably the worst experience of my life that I've gone through and find some good in it. And the day after she passed away, I was in a meeting. And I think I've missed since April 15th, I think I've missed maybe 3 days. But there's been plenty of days I've done 2 meetings or 3, because what this program has taught me is this works in every aspect of my life. So when times get tough, I get back in the herd. And I get tight with the program. And I'm not thinking of drinking. Drinking isn't going to change anything. I prescribe to that notion. A drink will fix nothing in my life. It will change nothing for the better in my life. And I'm so glad that I believe that. So I'm not going to drink, but these meetings, I'm in a grief group and counseling and everything. Nothing is worth more than sitting in these rooms. And I get more strength and more wisdom from an AA meeting relating to what I'm going through now than I do from that grief group, because those people don't know how to get in touch with themselves. They're struggling just to talk about what's going on. When I'm in here, I've heard a lot of people talk about loss. Maybe my ears are just open. Maybe it's always been there. Or maybe I'm just in the right place at the right time. But I know this is the place for me to be. Now, if you're new here and you don't want the life that you've got, and your problem is alcohol or drugs, this is the place to be. The program will change your life if you're willing to do the steps as suggested. So, drinking hasn't been a problem in decades, but life is. And so I know this is where I find that experience, strength, and hope to make it through anything in life. So I am really appreciative of all of you listening, and Tony, thank you again. And that's it. Thank you. All right, I'd like to introduce